back to Indie Housing Market. I'm Kyle.morris with Morris Property Group.
Hi guys, I'm Shelly Walters with Shelly Walters Realty Group.
We're going to talk about the tension in the market, but we were talking about some really weird stuff before we got on camera. So first of all,
like you drinking C4 for breakfast?
But you drink iced tea for breakfast.
I don't understand why that's a big deal. That is like, well, I know we're both drinking them, but why is iced tea weird for breakfast?
It's just not a breakfast drink. But for the record, I'm not on like some high horse because C4 is not. C4 is just today. It's always an energy drink for sure.
For breakfast.
For breakfast. Super unhealthy for
and
the
do they
record.
have food with it? Usually?
No. No, I do not.
Then you had one for breakfast this morning?
Yes.
That's not the same one, is it?
It is the same one.
Oh.
It is the same one. So I'll drink on it because
Like
you don't want to see me
it's your
pound
little
on
bottle. Can we get you a nipple for it? You can just walk around?
I could do that and sip on it. That'd be cute. But as long as it has my logo on it, it says Morris Property Group.
There you
That'd
go.
work. I'll sell
Well, I'm
that.
surprised you haven't done that.
I am too. Listen, I need a pen and take notes. But I don't know. It's just weird because
Okay,
we're
iced
talking
tea
about
is
that.
normal for breakfast.
Iced
okay?
tea is not normal for breakfast, but I do love iced tea.
Okay.
Sweet tea.
No, unsweet.
Unsweet
No
tea
lemon.
for breakfast?
Yeah,
That's just like lake water.
not the way I make it.
Oh my. Well, okay. So Shelly makes the best unsweet
I
tea
do.
in the world. So
I do.
I'm gonna see about that. And then we're talking about Chi-Chi's. Like I'm super disappointed Chi-Chi's isn't around anymore. I still buy the salsa. I love
They
Chi-Chi's.
still sell a salsa?
You gotta get the restaurant style. Well, it says restaurante style, but that's the specific salsa they used in the
Yeah.
in the
And
thing.
so you are now, tell everybody what you're doing with your taco tour. That sounds fun.
Oh, so we're doing a taco tour
And I
of
get to go at
Indy.
least once.
You can come. So we're just going around and going to anywhere for the best tacos in Indy, and then we're going to do a magnet and just let everybody know, and we kind of rank them, and people can come along. People want to send recommendations.
Yeah,
Right
so if you have a
now,
recommendation of a place you need to
yeah, we got to
you
check
need
it
to check
out.
out.
Top of the list right now is Paco's. Paco's Tacos is amazing. Gordito's Rust Belt, which is over by in the district in Fishers, and then Chris's Ice Cream, which is the craziest name ever.
Yeah, I
because
had
their
no
tacos
idea.
are awesome. Their ice cream's pretty good, but I feel like it should be Chris's Tacos.
So did they always do tacos, or is that something they just decided to add? Because that sign has an ice cream cone outside. That would not be a
It's
place.
pink one too.
But it would not be a place for tacos. So,
It wouldn't be. I don't know. That's what I don't. We need to talk to Chris,
well, if
who
you-
I don't know.
Is he
but
on your taco tour?
we've already been there. Yeah, it was
Wait,
one of the first
you didn't
stops.
ask him?
No, we did not.
That'd be my first question. I would never even go in there because it says ice cream. So
But you got to go in there, and it's like right off the Monon. It's in Nora. It's absolutely amazing. Gordito's is amazing. Paco's. There's a bunch of other ones. We have a whole list. Send them our way. We'll go do it. But anyways, that's
Yeah,
the
I'm gonna
weird
go to
stuff
the
we
next
talk about
that'd be fun.
as real estate experts. We're talking about energy drinks and tacos. Anyways, the market is really. I don't want to say it's weird.
Contentious?
Yeah, it is. Wonky, cattywampus. I don't know. I can make up a bunch of weird
Not
words.
easy.
There's just tension in it, right? So the attitudes of sellers is very interesting, and we should talk about that first. But then the attitudes of buyers is also interesting. I think there's been since July an uptick in the occurrence of a mutual release. For anybody that
Yes,
doesn't
yeah.
know, that's when the two parties decide to get out of the real estate transaction. But it's weird because I feel like it's settling down a little bit, but it's definitely been evident. And so I just hope it kind of pivots back to a little bit more normal interactions.
Negotiation, interactions, just working towards the same benefit at the end of you wanting to sell, you wanting to buy. That's what we're really trying to do.
Yeah.
But
You want
then-
to sell and we won't buy.
And your attitudes are getting in your way.
Right. Like over $1,500, $2,000. Now that's easy to say. That's not my money, right? So I understand where it happens. But what ends up happening is we dig lines in the sand over $500, $700, whatever it may be, when people aren't looking at like their net of 205 or whatever it is, right? It's like such a
Or
small
what's going to
percentage.
happen if they don't and they go back on the market. So that's one thing that's so hard. I mean, beyond us coming across as, I want my commission, you need to sell this house, which neither one of you
Care
and I
less about,
work
yeah.
towards our commission. We are there to try to give them our expertise and our opinions of what we've seen in the market and what we've seen happen if you do it this way.
Yeah.
Because there's many, like, the question is, what are my options? Well, option 1, 2, and 3. Number 1's probably going to be your best benefit, but it's usually the one that they're the most angry about or saying, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And then they start to put their own, like, like you said, just draw a line in the sand because of principle or something. Well, that number is probably your answer that you really need to do, but you've got an attitude against it. The other one is an in-between negotiation or whatever. The third one is don't do either one of these over, like you said, you're dealing with $500. I was dealing with $2,100. Don't do that. But if you go back on the market,
You're gonna take what?
you're going to take, in my instance, I told them I think they're going to at least lose $15,000 because the days on market have been accruing the whole time you were in your pending status. Nobody's making offer of list at that time normally.
No.
And now they're definitely going to make an offer less than list. So if you've got a really good offer, and this is both cases in my instance, was they were sold within the first 2 to 3 days of the market, yeah, you're probably going to get list or very, very close to it. Never again. And so these,
because people are going to say, what's wrong with the house? Even though there's nothing wrong with
Right.
the house, that
coming
is
back on the market
perception.
is a huge stigma. It's
Mhm.
really hard. And the thing is that 2,000 or 500 that you were quibbling about, not only that, now you didn't close in the next 2 weeks. Carrying costs come
mortgage.
into play, mortgage, all that stuff, more taxes, whatever. So yeah, give up 2 to lose 15 or 20.
So where
And they
did
don't
that?
understand that.
So where did it come from that sellers have? Is it because this narrative of, sellers got everything that they wanted for 2 years, and so like we're still entitled to it? One of the things that I hear a lot about right now is when you go and price a house and you want it, and a seller wants to go on the market, and they're like, and you give them a price. This is where we're going to be at. And they're like, I like that, but let's do this and see. Let's give it a shot on the
Let's test
week in the market.
Yeah.
And I just have not seen that work in 2.5 months. Like, if anything, you're going to pick up a 30 days on market just because of that reach.
Well, and our stats are
For
showing
no
we're
reason.
already there.
We are, yeah. And
Yeah,
so
so that's that in play. The 30 days on market average or whatever we're looking at with any of these towns that we always talk about and will be, is days on market will make you get less price, period. If we do not get that sold in that first weekend, well, just this weekend I got 10,000 off list and it was accepted. That was our go-in offer. We started first day on the market right off the bat, went in at 10 under. Because I know, and you know, we've talked about this, they're going to lower the price in 7 days, whether they know that yet or not.
yeah.
They just happen to accept it. So
And I think
full
that's,
list is a dream right now.
well, but
For
what's
some.
weird, the numbers are kind of intuitive to that. I think it's the agents, right? The agents are scared because they haven't had those conversations in 3 years, right?
Right.
And so all of a sudden, if I have a conversation, we're sitting on the market, we're stale, et cetera, et cetera. And if you haven't dealt with that in the past 3 years, you may not be accustomed enough to have that conversation of like, we're going to be fine, blah, blah, blah. Or they're dropping price way too early, right? People dropping it 7 days on the market. If that was your marketing plan from the beginning, I totally agree with that. But if you're just doing it out of the nervousness that it didn't sell in a week, like the days on market, the entire market doesn't really support that, right? So like when I was looking at, I did the stats on Fishers and Noblesville, and I looked at how many price reductions there were. I'll just go over those real quick. So there's 145 houses on the market in Fishers. 35 of those had a price reduction this week, right? And in Noblesville, there's 136 on the market, and 42 had a price reduction this week.
Just about 25%, is that right? Yeah.
Right, but the weird thing is that sellers who are nervous? Is that agents who are just trying to have a plan because they don't know how to have the conversation?
Or I think, like you're saying, if they're going to ask for 7 days on the market, they're going to say, let's do a price reduction. Is that agent's not paying attention to the market because they're in the back of their head are thinking it's been 4 to 6 for 2 years and we just went a whole week, we better lower the price.
I wouldn't even do it until like 19, 20 days, 21 days. I mean, that's just
and
what
like
the
we're saying,
data
we're talking about
supports.
you just need to know where we are in the days on market right now and not start to scare everybody.
But with those numbers though, think about that. So all those price reductions, which really, I mean, it's a lot, but not a little. Or whatever, that didn't make sense, but you know what I mean. In Fishers last week, there's 25 closings, 17 of them closed at list. I mean, that's a high percentage of that, right? And then in Noblesville, there was 18 closings and 12 of them were at list. So plenty of
And
people are
you're
still
talking
getting it.
about the
And they're not all
closings
within
last
7,
week.
all the closings.
So that's a 30-day back. So this is where I
Yeah,
always do my
30
stats
days
too.
back.
That's 30 days back, 30 to 40 days back.
Yep.
That they closed at list.
Which is where we started to see things change to a certain extent. But
right.
it's not like every single one had been on the market for 7 days or less. I mean, I was looking at stuff that's been on the market 20 days and got list, and they just never budged.
Right.
So it was just really interesting of having, you just got to have an agent who knows what they're doing, has a read on the house, has a read on the market, and isn't reacting just to react, quite honestly, to kind of insert some value to show direction.
Yeah.
And the direction is just maybe a little bit more uncomfortable of, this is what we're going to do in this much time. You need to prepare yourself for this patience stage of like seeing what it's going to look like.
Yeah, kind of an average market where we just used to sit and wait for 3 to 6 months sometimes. Now we're not doing that quite yet, thank goodness. So in regards to that for the sellers, I think too was just watching, talking about the energy in the air. Sellers also still seem to have that attitude that this is the same market we've been in for 2 years, and they expect that they are king of the hill, and the buyers need to come in and just bow to them and do whatever. And just please, sellers, that is not where we are. And agents, that's not where we are. So putting your line in the sand because they're not going to do that to me because I'm a seller is going to hurt you.
Yep.
Negotiations need to continue throughout the entire process, especially in today's market. And I'm seeing people that just think they can say, I don't think so, I'm a seller. And the buyers are saying, I don't think so, I'm a buyer. And I know this and this and this. And the seller's like, but I know this and this and this. And the negotiation is out the window.
Yep.
It's just really strange right now.
They get stuck on principle, right? Or things that they read when, like, I can do the numbers, I can look at it, right? And so seller will be, like, hey, well, I don't want to take this much in concessions, right? I'm already concerned about the pricing or whatever it may be. And like when we looked at we had the state stats up. And so this, from last month to this month, actually it was from August to September, because we don't have October stats on it. Close price was down, or average sales price was down 5%, right? And so when you look at that from 1 month to another, everybody's like, oh, it's going down, blah, blah, blah. But what gets overlooked is it's still up 3 or 4% from April.
right.
So they're like, oh, I'm already taking a hit from last month, which is still more than what you would have sold it for in April, for the record, right? Which, like, don't even get me started on where you would have been at last year, right? Or the year before that, because it's still all higher than that. And we are just getting really hung up on, like, I'm not going to concede, when it's like, you are doing the best you could ever do on this house outside of, like, next year to a certain extent, right? Because we keep getting appreciation.
Right, we don't know. And that's just exactly another conversation to have with both buyers and sellers. We have no idea where we're going to be next
year.
As we move into, as we say, the seasonal market of now November, December, and January are in front of us. So it's a slow down time anyway.
It is. But and here's the interesting thing, that it's possibly the best time to be a buyer in the past 3 years.
Right.
But I get it. The interest rates they're higher than they have been. It does impact your debt to income ratio. It does impact your carrying costs and everything like that. But the prices are going to keep going up. I know everybody thinks they're going to come down. But I mean, sweet, they came down 5%, which is still up, right? So, like, I mean, we're looking at it disproportionately. Buyers aren't taking stabs at houses, which they could just totally get for some reason. It's just very odd because there's plenty of active buyers in the market, but they're afraid to write an offer to counter back, or they get stuck on.
Oh, the seller's like, I'm not countering that. It came in too low. I'm like, this is the negotiation part of real estate that we've always done, and I think everybody has forgotten that. It's not just slam bam, here's your purchase agreement, we'll see you at closing, which was happening. Inspections didn't matter, nothing mattered. I don't know. So my buyers, like you were talking about, the buyers we've said this for 2 years. They should have bought the house yesterday.
Yep.
We say that every day. Tomorrow we'll say it again about today. So I have a specific situation as well. My buyers, I started working with them last summer, and we were in that heated market of, we made a couple of offers, didn't get it, but they were literally looking at $35,000 to $50,000 over their price range. So when they were looking at here, there were offers going in anywhere from $35,000 to $50,000 every single time. They decided to get out. It's getting crazy, but they came back in because this great house came on the market, and they're like, we want to make an offer. Not only did they not spend the $35,000 to $50,000, they got $10,000 off the list price in the first day on the market. That is a totally different market for buyers than it was a year ago or 6 months ago. And they came back into it, and I actually got to watch. So having, we can sit here and say all this, and we don't pull these stats out like and just read them verbatim like we don't know what we saw. We have to use these numbers, but I got to physically see them go through the process. And as the listings kept coming in after they quit, first thing I was seeing was the price drops.
Yeah.
And second of all, I was seeing the days on market. And then I was watching those listings of those same houses we could not get last summer sell, and they were not getting full list. And I'm like, this market, the only reason they really kind of thought they wanted to get out was interest rates. But we get back to, you just didn't spend a swing of $60,000 more on this house.
Liquid cash.
That you probably didn't have. You had to pay a price.
Pull it out of your 401k or something, which is ridiculous.
So they're paying another 1.5% more. We'll get into obviously date the rate, but so I watched that whole thing, and I just saw those houses inch up.
Yeah.
Constantly, and then it was weird. So just saying that is like I've physically seen a buyer shouldn't have bought yesterday because of what they were dealing with, and buyers need to get back in this market to really see what's going on for them now and the price point they're in and the town they're in, and see that this is a great time to be a buyer.
Yeah, you have leverage. But that goes back to the sellers. We talk about the tension with the sellers. There's tension with buyers right now, right? So it's interesting to see a buyer go from like, I'm just excited to get a house.
Yeah.
To, hey, I got it for $20,000, plus I want $7,000 in concessions on closing costs, plus I want a new chimney, right? Like, each one of those is a win by itself. And now all of a sudden, without all three, they're like, I'm out. I'm like,
right.
What?
Or with even one, the seller says, I'm out.
Right. And then we wonder why, like, there's this tension.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, when is a good deal, like, a good enough deal? Like, people want the deal on top of the deal for some reason, right? And I get it, but at the same time, the goal is to buy a house. And it's to buy it correctly. And maybe, like, if you're getting it $20,000 under price, but you got to pay the $5,000 for the chimney, that's still a deal, right? It's hard to say together, but it's still a deal. And people are like, oh, I didn't get everything I want, so it's not a deal. And like, that's just not how it works.
Well, and that gets back to my strategy of putting a listing on the market with a inspection already performed, because of that very reason. My people that were fighting over $2,100, it was mold they had no idea they had in the crawl space. You're talking about a chimney. When you know everything you need to know going into that, when you know that you've made a purchase agreement, you can pretty much guarantee that you're not going to have an inspection problem, because you already know, and we've provided it to the buyer. So all of that nervousness and the 2 weeks off the market to start negotiating whether or not we're going to do it, just,
it's digested beforehand.
Oh yeah, and no surprises. Like, those surprises are expensive.
Oh, they're always expensive.
So
nobody's surprised about GFCI or an outlet that doesn't work.
Yeah.
The surprises are when the foundation leaks or the chimney's toast,
and
or
there's
whatever.
parts of the house you never walk into. So you're not going to get in your attic, you're not going to get in the crawl space, but that's where we find our surprises. So let's go ahead and get rid of those surprises so that we don't do this where we end up $500 apart, falling apart, back on the market, losing now $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 because you didn't do your inspection up front. I mean, literally a $500, $400 fee may lose you a ton of money.
But you know why? It's because people get emotional. And like, that's one of the professionals there to be in the middle of, to absorb. Like, I absorb the emotion, I absorb the stress, so I can negotiate based off of our feelings, but not convey them forward in the negotiation process. That's not happening very well for some reason, but also it is just an emotion. Like, it's not necessarily factual what you're feeling about this. Like, your fear is disproportionate to the reality of the situation. It's just very odd what it has created. I think the world in general, it feels like that, and so like I don't want to blame anybody for it, because it's just kind of what our world is right now. But at the same time, there's still plenty of people who are operating in kind and compassionate, and you can still get deals on both sides and still handle yourself and not get all caught up in this,
I'm right, you're wrong.
I have to win, you have to lose.
Right.
Right? Like there
And that
are
is, I
win-win
think that comes
situations.
down to exactly what it is. I have
Yeah.
to win, you have to lose, and that doesn't get us anywhere.
It doesn't.
And normally people are now not buying or selling like they wanted to, so it's difficult. But just something we wanted
Just some
to
stuff to
bring
kick
up.
around. It's,
Yeah.
everybody wants to know about the market. Well, sometimes the market is much broader than just the stats, right? It's like,
Yeah.
what does it feel like right now?
So we are going to have Indiana Housing Market. We're going to have a CEO from IAR, Indiana Association of Realtors, who's going to come in and tell us about the stats of the market, which are so much more detailed than we go into these little 7-day.
A little bit more detailed. I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah. So he
put a lot of effort into
I
this.
can't wait to have him come in and talk to us because some of the stats are pretty scary. But I'll just quickly say one real quick. The inventory is down 75% since 2014 and 39% since 2019. So the housing shortage is getting big.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's got all kinds of stats like that to really let us compare where we are, what we've been doing, and try to really make you see that if you get a house in today's market, you're lucky, and if you sell a house in today's market, you could be lucky because it's just a weird market. So
With a whole generation.
negotiate.
Yeah.
The word for the day, negotiate.
I mean, Raquel behind the camera can speak to this. We have a whole generation of home buyers coming, a whole bunch, and there's nothing.
Mhm.
There's just nothing out there.
Well, and that was a conversation he had at the meeting I was at, is that we are getting ready to potentially walk into where the 20-somethings, early 30-somethings are not gonna be able to find a house potentially because of the prices going up, and that's a whole nother conversation. He'll be here to talk, and that'll be a really good one. We'll let you know when that one's coming up.
Then you, on the reverse of that, then you have baby boomers who are retiring, Social Security, all this other stuff, and their house is their largest asset, and they can't pull the money out to live in retirement because you don't have people buying all of a sudden because
Right.
interest rates are high, inventory's low, people just mail it in, say I'm gonna rent or whatever it is. It's all got to change, like the perception of the market. I'm not here to buy or sell. It's just like what are we talking about, people, right? Like that's more like what I want to have conversations.
You talk about renting, so we're also gonna have a show coming up. We're gonna do a deep dive, renting versus
Yeah.
buying. If you're spending $1,700 a month, what could you have gotten? Do you have the down payment? How do you get that down payment? How do you buy instead of rent?
Yeah.
Because in the end, that's really a better option.
And what's the pros and cons? So I have a friend who, he's got, he's, we'll just say he's financially set. Well, I guess is the best way to say that. But it's like, at what point does owning a house become a detriment? Literally, like financially versus, owning a house, right? Like it's easier for him to rent than to own a house because of the costs incurred, because he pays cash and then that cash is not making a return on his investment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a whole thing. And it was a really interesting conversation that I'd love to dive into sometime. And it's like, what is that dollar amount? And it's probably up like around $5 to $10 million, where like all of a sudden that money not in the market doesn't do that, which for the record is not many people,
Right,
like, I mean,
right.
he's one of like one that, so it's just all interesting. And you almost 99% of the time, the move is to buy. That's just the reality.
Well, and you mentioned the seniors. It might be something, not seniors, but anybody trying to do
What do we
move
call
down.
that? I mean, I've done the senior real estate specialist training. It was, we'll call it our glory. Golden years. I'm getting there, close. I'm close.
So the anyway with that is the reverse mortgages out there for those that
Yeah.
need to do that. So you're saying they can't get the money out, but if they want to do it, stay in the house, they can get their reverse mortgage started. That's a whole nother thing that you can
Yeah.
learn about if you wanted to. But I'm going to start with Carmel. Last week, 51 houses hit the market and only 10 pended. So we're seeing a lot less pendings in that first 7 days. The average days on market for the past 7 days in Carmel was 28 and the median was 8, so going up. Currently active, 160. In the last 30 days, we had like 94 sell, which is really much lower than we've been seeing, whatever. But the average days in market for the past 30 days was 15, and now at 7 days it's 28. So in this past 30 days, we've gone up 13 days on market. So that's interesting.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah, well, last 30 days if we want to look at 3 days, because we did 7, so, or 3 weeks and 7, so, yeah.
And then throw fall break in there.
Yeah,
But
good
it's
point.
gonna
But
go
anyway,
up.
15 to 28 in that short period, so days on market are climbing. Westfield, 26 hit the market, that's all.
Yeah.
3 pended there, so that's all. Days on market in the past 7 days in Westfield, 47 is the average, and 28 is the median, which the median has stayed low. The median's now coming up to match it. So in the last 30 days, we had 150 close. Average days on market in the 30 days was 38, now 47, so gone up 11 days there. And the median for the past 30 days was 18, is now 28. So Westfield's really going up. Again, didn't sweat. Divide that down into these new builds that we know is going on over there. 211 currently on the market. In Zionsville, only 4 houses hit the market. One of those pended. There, the last 7 days, average days on market 30. Even with their low inventory, they're still at 30 days on market for average, and 18 median, so that's coming way up. The past 30 days on market, still about the same. But we have 30 have only sold in Zionsville in the past 30 days.
That's crazy.
So list
for
to
such
sale,
low inventory for it to still be high. It's interesting.
Right. So list to sale ratio in Zionsville in the past 30 days was 100. Westfield was 99%, and Carmel was 98%. So again, that's the last 30 days. So
think about that though. 100% list to sale ratio, 30 days on market.
Right, good point. Yeah. Well, that would be, same for that.
Mm-hmm.
So 38 days on market, 99%, and 98, whatever. So
Westfields will start to go up too, I think, as we get, since there's so much new construction. I think we'll see that go up in around December of people who are doing new builds that will end up closing in the summertime of next year.
Well, and another thing to keep in mind for buyers that we have out there, today's a great day to buy because new builds want those houses off their list at the end of the year. So this is a really good time to go to the buyers. They have the interest rates, usually a little bit of an incentive there that they've lowered those. And we'll do some kind of a negotiation on the house more in December. So we have that.
Yep, we do. It's interesting. In Fishers, we had 45 go on the market, 21 are still active, so only 6 pended, but 24 pended last week altogether. And we're in the same boat. There's 145 on the market, 37 days on market, which is trickling up, right? As inventory is kind of building up a little bit, which is, I say inventory is building up as we're at a 5-year inventory low for the record. But the median is 19 days, and in Noblesville, 31 hit the market last week, 14 are still active, 4 of them pended, but 17 actually pended last week. So at least we're starting to get into positives with inventory gain, which will help everything. But it's still 37 days on market, 15 median. And one of the ones I looked at in Fishers, it had been on the market since like January 23rd.
Ooh.
Right? And so that impacts that as well. But you have people out here freaking out doing price reduction 7 days on the market. Like the house had been on the market since January, right? It was pended, it hasn't closed, so I don't know what it actually closed for. We'd have to pay attention to that, which I don't super care to a certain extent to figure out like what kind of hit they took on it. But it's still sold, right? But they navigated it and they dealt with it until they sold it. And we have people panicking at 10 days.
Well, so if we just look at this, so the past 30 days, or even the past 7 days, looks like 28 days on market in Carmel is our average. So it'll do a price reduction before it's even supposed to really truly close.
Yeah.
However many days that is, so 11 days sooner than you probably should even be thinking about it. The same Westfield, 47 days on the market, and you want to lower the price at 7 when you're not even supposed to have sold yet.
Yeah.
Same for Zionsville, 30. So that's what we talk about. It's like not that knee-jerk reaction, because not only does lowering the price, so the buyer looks at it and sees they lower a price, they're going to really now have more of a mental attitude of even coming in less because they've already lowered the price.
Yeah.
Whereas if you stayed at list for 15, 20, 30 days, they may come in for less, but they might come to where that price drop was going to happen. And now you did your price drop. Now that's where they're negotiating from to go even lower because they see your motivation to sell. That's a whole psychological issue of not doing that.
Right. but we do reductions at times to keep it fresh in the market and all this stuff. But I totally agree with you. You drop at 7 to sell it for 10 under, right? Like, because that's what's going to happen, right? And so, at what point does somebody just offer you 10 under and you negotiate it at 6 under?
Right.
Right. You end up like losing less by just being more patient.
Yeah.
But that's hard. That's hard for people to accept. It just didn't sell right away.
Right, it is.
That's just the reality.
Because here's the thing, what they still
There's
will tell
emotion
you.
in it.
I still get this conversation, and it's always the same conversation. It's like they went to that, the Best Western webinar, sat in the room, and they said, they told every seller out there that's thinking of selling, your house should sell in that first weekend, and if it doesn't, then there's something wrong. Like, they've all been told this, but I don't know where it is. The main thing I think they're truly hearing from their own personal experience is they come to you and say, but my neighbor's house sold in a day.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just looked it up and it sold in 14 days, or they just.
Or they think it got over less than it did.
I mean, it's just that, like, everybody says that to me, and I'm like, no, they didn't. Why, so they're going by what they're hearing instead of listening to what we're telling them is really happening.
But it's hard for them to stay up to date for it, though, because what they're saying is accurate 10 months ago.
Right.
They just aren't in it enough to know that, like, that is pivoted,
Yeah.
right? And so, like, I think that's what we try to do here is, like, that is pivoted. I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just saying that's not now. Right? Like, you were right, that's just not us anymore,
Yeah.
right? That's just not the reality that we live in. So, setting that conversation up front is basically what we always do. And we just don't gaslight or fearmonger, we're just like, let's have a game plan, this is what we're gonna expect. I know I'm gonna get phone calls, like, what's going on with it? The same thing that we expected to go on with it. Like, people get emotional, I expect it. So, I don't know, it's all interesting. I think, talking about rentals and mortgages here in a week or two will help as well. We got some guests coming on, but obviously we're open to anything that anybody wants to talk about, whether it be Chi-Chi's, Don Pablo's. I don't see enough Don Pablo's anymore. Energy drinks, big fan of tacos.
Well, and,
send it our way. We're dumb enough to talk about it.
As we say, be sure to like and comment below as well if you can for us. We'd love to answer any questions.
Yeah.
I know we get them out in the public all the time. People come in and talking to us about things, and they give us the ideas for some of the show
100%.
Conversations. But we also have Megan Weiss coming next week, so she'll be talking about the Women in Real Estate that she's started this group. It's really a cool group, but
I don't get to be in it.
I know. She said she's had men ask to be in it, and she said she's not going to.
Yeah, but then do I have to start something? I don't want to
You
start something like that.
You don't want to start a men's group?
I've got too much. Well, we kind of have one, and it's more about like mindset, but at the same time, like, I got a lot on my plate.
Right.
I think it's beautiful what she's doing. I think it's amazing.
She's just so funny. She's like, I have men wanting all the time. No, you can show up in with long hair and sunglasses, and maybe we'll set you in the back.
I'll do it in a heartbeat. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, just full disclosure, like, I'm just jealous. Like, I want information as well.
It's
you know what I mean?
It's a
like,
great
it's
group.
just the reality of it. I'm just jealous that I don't get to be a part of like such great minds of real estate. But rightfully so.
She's really good. Obviously, we think the world of her, and she's started this group, and they do have great events and classes and stuff. So Megan will be on next week, and she'll have a lot of good information for us as well. But want to thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next week on Indie Housing Market. I'm Shelly Walters with Shelly Walters Realty Group with FC Tucker. Phone number is 317-201-2601.
And I'm Kyle Morris with Morris Property Group with FC Tucker as well. My phone number is 317-649-5122.
Thanks.